Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Business First Creatives podcast. Today, I am chatting with my friend Akua. Akua Konadu is a storytelling strategist. You know that word strategist had to come in.
Yes.
Educator and multi-passionate entrepreneur. She's the founder of not one, but two businesses and knows firsthand what it takes to build something from the ground up. She is also the host of the Independent Business podcast brought to you by Honeybook, which we are also going to be chatting about today. But Akua is on a mission to inspire and educate business owners to pursue their dreams, overcome obstacles, and build successful independent businesses. Girl, what's good?
Hello, friend. How we doing? I didn't even know what that intro was. I said, okay, go ahead, Coley. I was like, okay, you hyping me up. I'm like,
I
all right,
mean,
let's go.
it was written by Haley. Shout out to Haley.
Shout out to Haley. We love you, girl.
I feel like we should give some context. So, I first met Akua 18 months ago at the Creative Educators Conference brought to you
Yes.
by Laylee and Madi. Hey, girl.
Yeah. Hey, girl.
But a lot has changed in Akua's
Yeah.
life since I
Yes.
met her in January of 2023. And
Yes.
we are going to talk a little bit about this, but today we are going to be talking about storytelling for the sheer purpose that as a storyteller, I feel like that has kind of fallen by the wayside,
Mm-hmm.
or that storytelling is so ingrained in my brain, I don't even recognize it when I'm doing it anymore.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Those are two, like, people are on the very, like, both spectrums, like, for me naturally. And one thing that I learned about myself, even because that was me, where, like, I feel like I'm doing it all the time, that I don't even sometimes realize that I'm doing it, which is great skill to have. But then I also realized when I stopped seeing certain results, I said, oh, I got to change some things.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I have to evolve. I have to be innovative because, entrepreneurship has drastically changed since 2020. I think so many our perspectives, how we view the world shifted, everything, and even involving the relationships around us shifted. So I was like, storytelling has always been, no matter all the changes on social media in terms of content, you want to sell your products and services, storytelling hasn't changed. Like, storytelling's always been a very important thing and to have in your content or marketing strategy. But the way that we tell stories has changed. And so that's where we really need to evolve. And I think now, especially as more video forward platforms, like, people want to be told what to do. They want to be taken on a journey. They want their hand held to be led from one point to another point. And so I think now more than ever, especially just with like AI and all these different things, storytelling is key. I think it's truly, truly the thing that makes us stand out more than anything.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that is so powerful about storytelling as it relates to sales, because,
Mm-hmm.
we independent business owners, we need to make
Yep.
sales or our
Yep.
business ceases to exist. But
Mhm.
I think the key to the storytelling is if you can show someone how you helped someone else that they
Mhm.
can relate to, whether that's the same industry or the same background or the same location, like however it is that they can relate to the person that you've helped. If you tell a story about where they started,
Mhm.
what y'all did together, and then what their business looks like now, that is the best way to sell your services. And all you have to do is tell some good stories.
Oh, you gotta just tell some good stories. And I think we overcomplicate things a lot because stories are all around us every single day. Like, you just have to be able to see them, right? And I think one of the best ways to become an amazing storyteller is to be able to collect
Mhm.
stories. You know what I mean? I think that's the key thing because the relatability factor is what's going to get people to connect with you. So then when you do finally sell, they already know you. They already know your values. They trust you already. They're not going to question anything. They're just going to hit that buy button. And when you even said too, with like how you can, in terms of selling, I want to add more layers to that, utilizing somebody and showing their transformation. Sell that feeling, but also come with receipts. Come with
Mhm.
receipts. Come with the receipts. I think right now too, we are really, and that's one of the storytelling trends that I talk about is we can tell now when people are being very disingenuous. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm so tired of hearing build six figures with these steps and yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. But how is that going to apply to me? Because what you did in your business is not going to work for me. I want to know truly what it really took you and what did your season look like? What were the numbers, the data, the facts? And that's where now, like, people want that now more than ever. Now, more so in corporate space, like B2B, data storytelling is huge. And I think that we should take some of that and implement it into our own business. Show me the numbers, show me the framework. And you can do it in a really amazing way to where you're showing the feeling, the transformation, because that's what you're selling is the feeling. That's what you need to be. That needs to be first and foremost, that emotion, because people buy off of emotion. But also, too, you're making them feel good about that purchase by bringing in those numbers, that data, the receipts, showing them that you know what the F you're doing. Like, that they're not going to question that. And so I really do want to say, like, data storytelling has gone up. I think it was like over the past 5 years, up over 500%, because people, again, we want realness. We want transparency, because the same tactics that you heard, like I said before, like do these steps for 6 figures and this and that. Nobody wants to hear that shit anymore.
No.
Respectfully. Disrespectfully, actually. I'm like, disrespectfully.
But I think that one of the things that you mentioned, and you've really hit on like something that is like nails on a chalkboard for me, and that is income-based marketing. I personally, I love numbers. I love data. In case somebody listening doesn't know, I am a statistician. Like I got degrees, okay?
Yes.
But and I love numbers. I think numbers make good headlines. I think numbers help you tell your story. But when it comes to you telling me, oh, if you do A, B, and C, you will make 6 figures in your business, I automatically tune you out.
Tune you out.
Personally, when people are like, oh, but even though I know that if I help you set up some good systems in your business, I will by default get you more sales, which is an amount of money. But I don't mention that anywhere in any of my marketing, because I'm trying to save you time. Now that gets you more money. But it would feel icky for me to be like, if you do this, I will bring you another $2,000 to $3,000 a month in your business. Like, no, that just doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. To add to that is like, you have to really look at the person holistically. That's also the thing. I say this all the time. It's so elementary, but knowing your target audience is so key. I don't give a shit. It is so elementary, but it's so, so, so key, because you have evolved. Your audience has evolved. And so the thing is, you, like you said, you save them time to do what? Spend more time with their family, right? Do the things that they love, have more time in their life to do a hobby, something that really brings them joy. That's the key part that you sell. Not that I'm going to make you more money. Fine. Naturally, that is a byproduct of that. But that money is going to lead them to do other things in their life that they truly, 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 really care about. And so a lot of the times of what I say to people all the time, like when they walk through my intensive, and that's the first thing we do, we instantly do the target audience analysis. And I don't care how long you've been in business. People fill it out and I'm like, why? Like I ask why every single time, because I want you to get to the root. I want you to know them inside and out, that the emotions down to the language that they are using, so that you can implement that into your sales strategy. And so it's so, so key to really know your audience, but know them holistically. Like, yeah, of course, I want to make money. Who doesn't want to make money? But why? Why is the reason that you want to make money? Like me, I built my business. I want to make money because look, I have a dog. I love spending time with him. I want us to go on trips together. I want to give him a good life. I want to live a life of luxury, soft life. Hello. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's other reasons besides the fact that I want more money. So really take that time and either interviewing people that, which that's what I did. I interviewed people, like people that I would love to work with, people who I have worked with, to really just understand them more so that I could feel much more confident in my strategy. And so I think, like, to your point, like it's so key. You need to know who it is that you're speaking to. And then again, I'm going to tune out if you're like 6 figures, follow these steps. And Christina Torres, who we were just talking about, she was on the Independent Business Podcast, and I loved what she said of this. She said, we need to also think of the byproduct, like other things that your clients will gain from working with you besides just money, like similar to what I said, like other things, because results may vary. Results varies with everybody. So, you know what I mean? Like results, but that's where the data comes in, right? That's what I'm saying. And I think people would appreciate that, more of that transparency. So like, what are other things that people are going to gain from working with you besides like, oh yeah, you feel like you're going to make 6 figures. What are other things are they going to gain? Are they going to gain confidence in who they are as a business owner? Are they going to, be able now to create a new offer? Like what are the byproducts along with, like, you have your big thing, but what are the byproducts that they can also gain from working with you? So I really want to encourage people to really think about that in terms of like their storytelling and how to really infuse that in their sales strategy.
Yes. My byproduct personally is I give you confidence in your business. I give you confidence to turn on the automations. I give you confidence in the pricing in your offers, because I tell people flat out, no, you have to convince me that you have confidence in this price, because I'm not putting together a proposal in your honey book so that you
Yep.
can send it and you feel like you have to adjust the pricing every time so that it's lower so that someone will say yes. If we're doing that, then why is the price the price?
Why is the
Like,
price
I
price?
want you to feel good when you hit send and it goes to them. And, Honeybook's smart files are amazing. I call it the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate booking process. You can show your services, get them to schedule, sign a contract, and pay you money all in less than 5 minutes. But it's not helpful for me to set this up and streamline it if at the end of the day you are questioning your pricing and questioning what's included and questioning whether or not you can deliver on what you're trying to promise every single time you go to send that smart file to your lead. Like, that's
Mm.
not what I want for you. I want you to have
Yes.
confidence.
Exactly. And that's a byproduct. And again, I love that. Like, you taking that time to really think about what are other things that people are going to gain from me besides sales. And I think, again, that's just so, so key of when you are really wanting to leverage storytelling more. And I think also, too, just being very authentic and transparent. Like I said that earlier, but I'm going to rehash that again because I think it's so important. And there has been a lot of back and forth discussion with that. Like, I think it was so funny because like a long time ago, I don't remember who it was, but my friend Kayla sent it to me and it was another business owner. Like, I know her face, I just don't know her name. But she made a post that was just like, I just hate storytelling. She was just like, flat out, I hate it. I was shocked. I was like, oh, what? Okay, girl. You know what I mean? And I think it just goes to the point of like, I think because a lot of us have been putting in, when we're storytelling, it's like so much fluff, so much unnecessary, or we're embellishing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
keep it straight to the point, keep it simple. I'm not gonna embellish anything. Like, your journey is your journey, your perspective is your perspective. And I think I need people to be much more confident in their experiences as a business owner. Like, there's a reason why you have the business that you have. So you don't need to embellish just because you see what other people are doing. Like, you know what I mean? It's really easy to fall on those things of like when storytelling, you feel like you have to like embellish and over exaggerate to try to get a reaction. And you just don't need to do that. The most relatable stories are the ones that are considered the most mundane. Like, this just happened to me 2 weeks ago. My stories took off. I was fighting for my life in my stories. Okay, I took my dog to the groomers and he was not behaving on the leash because Starbucks is right next to the groomers. And so he thought he was going to go get his pup cut. So I was getting pissed at him. He literally would not walk in heel. Like, he's in training. He's a puppy. He's one, but he knows it, right? We've been training since he was a baby. So I just was like, what are you doing? So he's acting on the leash and he's pulling me on the leash. He's walking so fast. I said, I'm going to grab a video of this because you're pissing me off. So I grabbed a video of it, shared it on my stories. And I go, when he thinks he's going to get a pup cut, but he's really going to the groomers. I shared it, whatever. I'm walking him. I drop him off at the groomers. I check my phone. My DMs were blowing up. I was like, what? And like, people just thought it was so funny. And I was like, okay, well, then let me just share with, because people were like, you better get him his pup cup. They were like, you're so mean, like things like that. And so then I was like, all right, let me just tell people what he did. So then I shared with people what he did on a walk. And then I made a poll of like, do you think Kai should get a pup cup or not? And girl, people voted, like votes flooded in. People were like, free him, get him his pup cup. Somebody sent me a $10 Starbucks gift card.
Go get that baby his pup
To
cup
go
and
get that baby
yourself a latte
and get
while you
myself.
at it.
They were like, and it was so funny. The conversations that happened in my DMs. I mean, it was wild. I was so shocked. And then, so I made with Kai a deal because, like I said, I'm not going to reward him for bad behavior. People wanted me to. Everybody's like, he's innocent. Get him his pup cup. Like, and so I finally was just like, all right, fine, Kai, I'll make you a deal. You go home. Like, if you behave on the walk home, you get your pup cup. So he behaved on the walk home, but I literally documented that. And people were cheering in the DMs, like, yeah, he got his pup cup. Like, people were so happy, and they were like, you need to share Kai more. They were like, we love Kai adventures. Like, you know what I mean? And somebody even said like, oh my gosh, you just walked us through a whole story. I did. I walked them through the story. I was the villain in that story. I was his villain and he was the hero, and people were rooting for him just because they wanted him to get his pup cup. And when he finally got it, people could rest. People could rest. And my point was just like, stories are everywhere. And again, the most mundane, like what I thought just like wouldn't even be relevant, people loved it. And so now, like, they know me. They know I'm the like host of the podcast. They know I have my dog Kai, right? They're starting to know elements of me and who I am. So then again, when I'm getting ready to sell something, I'm priming. I'm in pre-launch phase right now. I'm coming off the storytelling course in the fall. So I'm priming them right now just to know about me and who I am. And then like my, educational tips, like weaving it all together because I am a multifaceted human being. Stories are all around us. Everyday stories. I don't know why I just made it this really long ass about the pup cup, but you get my point.
No, and I do get your point. And I think that this is really important though, because I feel like everyone struggles with storytelling because they're like, well, how do I make it relevant to my business? The truth
Yes.
is, not everything has to be relevant to your business. Not everything has to be about selling. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I do this. Like, there are so many people that just follow me to see me at Disney. And
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm telling stories at Disney, it's about my lobster nachos. It's about the fact that
Yes.
I had to bribe Chloe to take video of me going around on Dumbo so that I could use it in some of my emails for my business. I mean, I guess that's kind of business related, but anyways, I'm losing the point here. I show people what my life is like at Disney because people are just interested. Now, when it comes to me selling you on systems, hell yeah, I'm going to tell you that while I took that ride on Dumbo, two people inquired, one person paid an invoice, and someone filled out a questionnaire. Why? Because the way that I run my business is what allows me to go to Disney. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that every single story about Disney has to highlight that. Sometimes I'm just showing you that I'm at Disney because I am fucking happy and trying to be drunk and be in my element. Like,
And be your
that's
element.
just it.
And people want to see that. You know what I mean? Like people want to know who you are behind the products like and services that you sell. So I always like to say, and I always like to say to people too, like you can honor yourself. Like that's a storytelling trend I always tell people to lean into is like honor yourself in storytelling. Like you have to, because I think people are always like, well, I don't want to be vulnerable. Who says you have to? You don't have to. Like the video, like with me and my dog with the pup cup, that was far from vulnerable, and people loved it, right? Like
Mhm.
you being drunk at Disney with the bomb ass lobster nachos, that sounds good as hell. That's not vulnerable, right? Like stories are all around us, and so just really think about yourself of like, what are some of the things that I do like to share? And a simple thing that I do, I'm a big journaler. I love to journal, but also too at times when like I will have my voice notes out when sometimes when I'm like, something happened today. I always ask, like, what did you do today? What did you do today? How was your day? And filling that out. And I'm like, is there something that you could pull that's really relevant
Mhm.
to your audience? It doesn't have to be with selling, but something that is going to be of value for them. And I think another thing that I love to share too is that a lot of the times with storytelling, this is another storytelling trend, is, we always think that we have to start stories from the beginning, middle, and end. That has changed drastically. You don't have to start a story at the beginning. You have a short amount of time to be able to catch people's attention, especially on social media. You don't need to prep us and prime us with the beginning. Just get to it. Get to the point. Get to it immediately, right? Like have us on the edge of our seat. Like that was it, right? Like even with me with the pup cup, it was just like we're on our way to the groomer. You know what I mean? Again, like have people on the edge of their seat where it's going to make them stop and engage with you.
Mhm.
So if you know that beginning of your story isn't very engaging, you don't have to share it. You don't have to share it. What I love about storytelling is that it gives you the freedom to do content and be who you want to be. Because, and especially with content, we see everybody else and we're like, we have to have this. Oh, I have to have a nice camera, or, I feel like I have to be this way or that way. It's like, no, you have everything that you need within you to create the content, your experiences, the way that you view the world. You have everything that you need. And that's what I love about storytelling. It gives you the permission and the freedom to show up the way that you want to use your voice the way that you want to. You don't have to answer to anybody else. Like, of course, you do it strategically where it still aligns with your audience, but you matter as well in the process. And that's what's so, so key about storytelling.
I mean, and just to kind of harp on this, because you said it, but you didn't really say it explicitly.
Mm.
You get to decide what the fuck you share with your audience. I just want to say that. And I
Facts.
cussed on purpose because I want
Yes.
to make sure that everybody is just thinking to themselves. I mean, I had a very rough year. I was depressed for most of the first quarter. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I was doing stories about it from my bed. Like, there are
Mm-hmm.
some things that I just don't think that the world needs to know, especially
Yeah.
in that moment. But
Yep.
if I chose to share it, that's one thing. But
Mm-hmm.
you get to decide how much of your life people see. And so there is nothing wrong with not being explicitly like telling everyone everything that happened in your day. I mean, most people don't want to hear that.
Yep.
So you need to pick what's important that you think that you feel called to share or that your
Yes.
audience needs to know in order to get to know you, in order to trust you, and all of these things. And then that is where the storytelling can begin.
Yes, 1000%. Yep. Because I feel like all the time people, especially if you like, as you grow your platform, you grow your communities, I think, right? Like you kind of, because I found I'll be transparent, especially like as becoming like the host of the show and like people, and you guys, I'm not like, I'm just me. I'm not saying like people just recognize your, and like you have a podcast, people
Mm-hmm.
recognize your voice and stuff like that. So it's been really funny, like meeting people. And sometimes like you think in your mind, like, even so then sometimes I'll come back and like my episodes, I'm like, oh, like, should I mold myself? You know what I mean? Should I change and
Mm-hmm.
this, that? As like, and I'm like, Akua, no, I have to, it's a constant daily reminder. No, like, this is who I am. I love who I am. And therefore, since I love who I am, everybody else is going to love me too. Like, right? Like, I'm not going to change for anybody else. And it's not easy, right? I think as a business owner in general. And so it's like it's that constant reminder of myself of like daily affirmations that I say, you know what I mean? And so like, I'm not changing for anybody. Like I have the power, I control the narrative. And I think that's just a really, really good reminder for business owners that you always have a choice and you can always control the narrative.
Yes. Now, the whole point of today was to talk about storytelling trends that are popular that you should infuse in your business.
Yes.
And you have already said, honor yourself.
Yep.
And that storytelling does not have to be linear. It does not have to be beginning, middle, end. So what is the next storytelling trend that you would like to highlight?
Yes, micro stories. I think that's a really big thing that people just haven't really thought of. The Pup Cup story is a micro story that's small, quick, that I just shared in my stories. And it and when I say micro stories, I don't mean like it's stories for your Instagram stories. They're just really short, straight to the point stories. Because again, like I said before, like you have a very, very short amount of time. And now on TikTok, I think now you can make a video for up to, I don't even know how long now. It's quite long.
It's much longer now, but I'm not on the TikTok. So I don't know.
I'm on TikTok, girl, all the time. I love TikTok, honey. But I think it's just so important if you can just find, I think, and it's also a really easy and great way to start. Like if you can just find a really quick and easy way just to share a story and doesn't have to be long with your audience. And again, like if you're nervous to figure out, like if you're scared to do it, then just do it in your Instagram stories because it's going to disappear after 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like find your safe places. Like sometimes for some people, and the reason why I like to be like, I'm not on TikTok a lot. I'm on there to consume. I'm not going to lie. It's just for sheer entertainment. I'm not on there posting. However, if I want to experiment with something, I'm going to go post it on TikTok because nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. Right?
Unless it goes viral and then everybody sees it.
Then everybody sees it. But then okay, let me take this and bring it somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like if I always like to say that find your safe spaces in your business. If you are afraid to try and experiment different things, like, or, Ashton Carter, we had her on the show too. She said she like her mastermind. Like if there are places that you can speak to other business owners, like
I'm in her mastermind.
Oh, I love her. Like there you go. When she was talking about how she wants to experiment different things, like find those safe spaces in your business to try these things. I'm like, lean more into micro stories. I think that, again, they're really short, quick stories, get to the point, get to the conclusion. You know what I mean? And they can be very entertaining. Now, do I think that there are cases where you don't need to be like, I still am a firm believer in long form content. Facts. I'm still a believer. Do you know who Risa Tisa is?
Yes. I got it on Instagram, but I think it was also on TikTok.
She blew up on TikTok. She literally became an overnight sensation on TikTok from sharing a 50-part video series called Who the F Did I Marry? The series equated to 8 hours of watch time, and people watched it. Millions watched it. But what I loved about it, it's so funny because I actually have a blog post on it. Like now that I just thought about it, I literally created a blog post of like a case study of it, of like some of her strategies. What I loved about it was immediately from the beginning, the very first video, she set the precedence immediately. She already told you what you were going to expect. So I was already primed and ready that I knew that this was going to be a long ass story. Like we all knew. And the popcorn.
Like how many parts are there? Okay.
She did. I don't even think she was going to be 55 parts, but she buckled us up. She it's like you're getting ready to go on a roller coaster, right? We all sat in there and she gave us the instructions and this and that and the expectations. And so we're like, all right, we're ready. Like we're ready to go on this ride. You know what I mean? And so then she took us on the ride. She took us on the journey. And the way that she did it was so good. What I loved too is what else she did. She just was like, she'll share a quick tip and then she'll go back. That's important. I need you to remember that. And then she'd go back here. That was such she's just a naturally gifted storyteller. That was so freaking strategic though, because now you're paying attention because there were so many details. So you're like engaged. You're literally like, okay, I have to pay attention to her because I got to remember this specific detail because when she goes further along the journey, then things are going to make sense. So I just loved her storytelling strategy and it was long form content. So you know what I mean? I think
it was long form content, but
in bite-sized
pieces. Yes. And I mean, just in case you're listening, I would encourage everyone to please go Google this because it was so fascinating. But I mean, I saw it being shared by like a bunch of celebrities. I can't remember if she was on Jennifer Hudson's show or Tamron Hall.
Tamron Hall. I definitely saw her on that one. It may have been Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah. I mean, so she was, and she got a content deal. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I mean,
she's an influencer. I mean, I think it just goes to show just the power of storytelling on social media. Now, this woman is just naturally a gifted storyteller. Like, I mean, truly, she had the gift and she did it where how do you keep somebody holding on for 50 videos? They all went viral, every single one. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And she just kept us hanging where we were waiting patiently for the next series. You know what I mean? And again, it was in bite size. She did it in bite size. And so I think, again, like making that content, which is another storytelling trend, like I said, those micro stories, like how can you make the content more digestible for people, short to the point? And I loved it because she made it short and to the point. Like
Yeah.
the story was long in general, but the way she communicated it was concise and clear, which I think is so, so key for storytelling. It's so important.
We'll see because I know it's going to be a movie some point. So then we can
Oh,
watch the
yeah.
movie and then we can come back to the TikTok series and be like, well, how did it change when like it was told from a different perspective by, directors and writers and all of this?
Yes, I know. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what else she does because I was like, you know what, you deserve it, honey. Because ain't
Hmm.
no way,
Ain't no
ain't no
way. I mean,
way,
and I think that, I mean, all of us are listening to this like, oh my God, just ain't no way. Like for
ain't no way.
real? Like,
She
yeah.
she deserves all the peace and rest in the world. So I'm glad that she is thriving.
What is the next storytelling trend that we are going to
Oh my
talk about?
gosh. Let me. Oh, I also did also say one earlier, authenticity. So that was another
Hmm.
one. Storytelling, receipts. That was one.
Hmm.
I kind of went everywhere. So I was like data storytelling, authenticity, micro stories. Storytelling isn't linear. Honoring yourself, and also to making your content more interactive. Making your storytelling interactive. And I think like Risa Tisa did, like I said before, when she was literally like, remember that detail, right? That was an interactive piece. In the pup cup story I shared with my dog, I put the poll in my
Poll.
stories.
Hmm.
Make it interactive because that's how you're going to keep people's attention, right? Like make your content more interactive, get people engaged. I think now even too on Instagram, people can now vote on your post. Like how can you make things interactive as you're sharing the story just to make sure that people are getting engaged and sticking with you along the story? Like I went to a conference last week and like it was very similar to like a black church. Like I was like, y'all got like it was and we go to black church, it's a call and response.
Yes.
Call and response. That's interactive storytelling, right? Like that's another example of that. Like because then I'm listening because she'll be like, "Well, say this," and I'm like, then I say it because I'm like, I'm paying attention. You know what I mean? Like, how can you make it interactive? How can you include people into your journey? And so that is the main. I think those are it. I think those are all the storytelling trends. Let's go through them one more
Okay.
time. Let's do it. We have
Let's do it.
authenticity, being yourself. I think that's so so key. Storytelling is not linear, so you don't have to start it in the beginning. You can start wherever you feel will be great to like be able to catch people's attention. Micro stories, creating that content in just like short, bite-sized, digestible pieces of content for people to consume. Honoring yourself, I think is just so key. Really think about what you're comfortable sharing, what you're not comfortable sharing. And I want to add to that really quick too, by the way, this just popped in my mind. But I like to tell people when they're trying to figure that out, really think about how you feel. So if there's something that's happening in your life that you're like, you don't feel really good about sharing it, don't share it. Like if you feel uncomfortable, that's your sign to not do
Yes.
it. I think a lot of the times too, like people will share stuff while it's happening and they can easily make the story about them and not about their audience.
Hmm.
So really listen to your body, listen to your spirit, listen to your heart of like, how does my body feel? How am I personally feeling about sharing this? So that's what I do. So there's been things like not everybody is you don't have to sell your soul or pieces of yourself in order to get a client.
Yes.
So that's something I want to add there. And then what else? Make your stories interactive. Make them interactive.
Yes. Make them interactive.
Yes.
I
Those are
mean,
the
and
trends.
I'm just going to add one in, and it's not
Yeah.
really a trend, but I think that it lends itself from these things. And when you're making a micro story and you're
Mm-hmm.
not starting in a linear fashion, I
Mm-hmm.
think that there are all of these opportunities to get people to opt in for more. So, in other words, if
Yes.
you are starting on Instagram with like a micro story in your literal stories, give them the opportunity to go read more about the story or to see
Mm-hmm.
the end result or to see how it started. Like whatever it is, give them an option to go do something so that they are opting in to getting the rest of the story. That is going to really feed into your audience and help them make a decision for themselves on what additional content they want from you. Like with your pup cup,
Mm-hmm.
you did it with a poll, right? Like they could opt in. But like if something happened before that, you could have always written like a newsletter and been like, hey, I'm going to write about this in my newsletter next week. If you want to hear the beginning and how it all turned out, go to blah, blah, blah. And
Yep.
I mean, there's a way to do that, and feel icky about it. But there's also just a way to, hey, if you appreciated and enjoyed this one little bit, maybe you would enjoy the rest of the story that I'm going to tell. But if this
Yep.
is the only part that you needed, I am not going to, bother you or put the rest of it in front of you if it's
Yep.
not something that you want to opt into hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. That's such a good. We'll just add that on the list of trends, girl.
Yes.
So yes, I love that. That's such a good tip. Like that, any way to get people engaged, because we're human. We all want resolution, right?
Mhm.
Like we think of our favorite movies or shows, and have you not ever been pissed
Ugh.
that you did not? Let me tell you. Okay, so I am even ashamed to admit this. So like I know true crime blew up in 2020, and I used to watch true crime all the time. And here's why I had to stop. Because when you start watching true crime like heavily, you start to know a lot of the cases, because then people will take the same cases and share it differently.
Mhm.
So I could watch like 2020 will share this case, and then all of a sudden I heard it on a podcast, right? And the details are they choose to share what details they would like to share. And so sometimes I would get so pissed off that I would go back and Google stuff, because I was like, you're missing things, and I know
Yes.
you are, because like, and so I wanted to get like the whole gist of it. I was like, I have to stop doing this, because I'm like, it's not a good use of my time. Like it really isn't. My sister just watched and this isn't true crime, but my sister is getting her DNP. She wants to become a nurse practitioner, and she for mental health. Like she is a huge mental health advocate. And so I was telling her about this documentary that I saw on TikTok on HBO Max called The Six Schizophrenic Brothers. And it was a story, very unique story of 10 kids, and six of the sons out of 12 kids, there were 12.
Mhm.
Six of those kids ended up with schizophrenia, which is very rare. That is not a normal thing.
That
And
is
so
a statistical abnormality.
yes. And so their stories were and so of course storytelling, I'm like, oh my God, I want to know more about this. And I literally afterward, I was like, I'd never heard of it. So I watched it all, and I was like, there's holes. Like I could, and I
Mhm.
don't know if this should be being a storytelling strategist, but I was like, there's holes. So what did I do? I sat there for 30 minutes Googling to get fulfilled of the whole story. And I said, okay, I have it now. I'm at peace. I am done.
Mhm.
So anyways, all I'm saying is, as human beings, we always want to have a conclusion. We want to have conclusion. We want to know how things end. And it's just in our human nature. So again, I love that type of tip of like, because people will follow. People will follow. People will. So
Well, and plus
yes.
there's always I mean, you can also sell it as you're doing them a service, because if you've shared that original story on Instagram, even if they follow you, there is no telling whether or not they are going to see your follow-up update. Like
Yep.
the way that the algorithm works, they may or may not. And so
Hmm.
pushing them to like one of your mediums where they're guaranteed to be able to see it, like your email newsletter, or telling them to keep an eye on your blog. I mean, I know people don't really subscribe to RSS feeds from your blog anymore, but that used to
Hmm.
be a thing where you
Yeah.
could get emailed a blog digest. I mean, it probably still exists. I just don't hear people talking about it anymore. But
Hmm.
that's just a way that you can opt in to definitely get it in front of your eyes so that you do get that resolution.
Yes, 1000%. Oh,
Mhm.
I love that. Sorry, I like went on this whole tangent, but yeah, I sound like a
That's
creep,
okay.
because yeah, I will be Googling stories. I
Yes.
just am like whenever I watch. So, anyways, I don't watch true crime anymore because I was like, I'm getting pissed off. Like I just want to know all the details, and I find myself Googling stuff, and I was like, yep, we're done. So, anyways,
Yep, we're done with
yes,
this. No
we're
more.
done.
Akua, this was a
Yes,
fabulous conversation, and I just feel like I
yes.
have to have you on again so that we
Oh my
can like
gosh, I
dip
would love
more
to. I
into
love,
storytelling.
girl, I love chatting, honey. So yes,
I
this
mean,
was fun. This was great.
so why don't you tell the listening audience where they can find out more about the Independent Business Podcast or
Yes.
your actual offers, which is why I feel compelled to bring you back, because like I have so many questions about storytelling strategy, but
Oh
like I
yeah.
feel like if we started to do this now, it would just take this conversation in like a completely different direction.
Well,
So
let's
I
do a
feel like
part
it's got to be a
two.
part two. See,
Yeah, well,
look at you.
let's do a part two. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Okay, so you can find me on the Independent Business Podcast, powered by Honeybook, which Coley is an amazing. You're a pro, aren't you?
I am not. I am just an educator, but I am working on it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, either way, we love you, Coley, at Honeybook. Truly, like the impact that you make. We love you. And you can find me on the podcast, at the Independent Business Podcast, where we essentially, share the untold stories of entrepreneurship, where we break down the science of self-made success. And so love that. It's been so much fun. And then also too, you can come hang out with me on Instagram at Akua Konadu _. And I will share my adventures with my dog. I will share podcast episodes, storytelling. And then if you want to learn more about me and my offers, just head to my website, akuakonadu.com. But send me a DM. I always love to send voice messages or video messages answering any questions, anything like that. So that's where you can find me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
All right, guys. I hope that you have really enjoyed this conversation. And don't worry, y'all know I don't talk shit. She will be back for a part two. But that's it for this episode. See you next time.
Bye.